come out of the heart? Aorta. Okay. And then what's the first branch off aorta?
Brachiocephalic trunk.
Brachiocephalic trunk. What's the next one?
Left common carotid.
Okay, so these two right here, these are our common carotids. Common carotids. What's this one here? Left subclavian. What's this one here? Subclavian. So here's a left subclavian, and here's a right subclavian. Okay. These little things I've drawn here, those are clavicles. So subclavian goes under the clavicle. Oh, you missed the angry rant about being late.
Sorry.
Yeah. Let them, I'll tell you about it. Okay, so once we go under the clavicle, then we're at axillary artery. Okay, so we have axillary. Then we have this guy here. This is the anterior posterior humeral circumflex. The anterior and posterior humeral circumflex. I don't even know why I'm talking about this recording anyway. After we pass the circumflex, we get brachial artery. And then out here it splits. We get a radial artery on the thumb side. So remember, your radius is on the thumb side. And then we get an ulnar artery on the pinky side. Ulnar's on pinky side. And then I guess... out here, I'm going to call this one generally the palmar. Have you guys learned this stuff yet in lecture?
A little bit.
Yeah, this is peripheral circulation. Have you done peripheral circulation?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, you don't know. Like, you guys are majorly slacking in lecture or something. Palmar, there's actually a superficial and a deep palmar, but I'm just going to generally call it palmar. Okay. So then aorta comes down, and remember those little red guys coming off the aorta? Those are the little intercostals up in the thoracic cavity. Then this thing I've drawn here, this is the diaphragm. So there's a paired phrenic artery that's supplying the diaphragm with blood. We've got the phrenic artery. These three dots I've drawn here, this one's celiac trunk, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric arteries, which you no longer need to know. Then next up we've got the renal artery. So renal artery, the one that supplies the kidney. And then coming off of it is suprarenal, and that's the one that supplies the adrenal gland. You're once again going to be responsible for renal artery. Okay? So that one's not going away, because that's part of the urogenital system, which we're going to cover this second half of 224. So the only three things you're no longer responsible for is celiac trunk, superior mesenteric, and inferior mesenteric. Everything else on here you gotta know. After the renals, then we get our gonadal arteries coming off. And then we've got lumbar arteries down going in between the lumbar vertebrae. Okay. So just like intercostals go in between the ribs, these lumbars go in between the lumbar vertebrae. And then, I don't like how messy this is. I'll just tell you about this. I'll just tell you about this one. We'll do it. Okay. Then what happens is the aorta splits here. And once it splits, then we have common iliacs. We have common iliac. I didn't do this very much, please. And then common iliac splits into an external and an internal iliac. So the external iliac is the one that's going to go all the way down through the leg. It's going to become other things, but it's going to go all the way down through the leg. The internal iliacs are going to stay inside. Internal iliacs. Let's see, I don't like this. Okay. Then what happens, what I've drawn here, these little round circles, this is inguinal canal. Okay. So all of this, right, the abdominal aorta, that's all inside of the body cavity, right? But your legs are outside of your abdominal cavity, right? Yeah, you're like, yeah. Okay. So inguinal canal, all of these vessels that then go out to the leg are actually outside of your body cavity. Okay. So inguinal canal is the hole that those vessels travel through as they exit the body wall. Okay, so as they travel through the body wall. Okay. Then, just like in the arm, right, the arm has a anterior and posterior humeral circumflex. Okay. We have a circumflex down in the leg, but this time it's called the medial and lateral femoral circumflex. Because it's going around the femur. And it's going medial and lateral because it's going medially and then laterally. Whereas the one in your humerus is going anteriorly and posteriorly. That's why they're anterior, posterior, medial, lateral. After this happens, then we're in the femoral artery. Your big, huge femoral artery. And then there's a branch coming off of it, which we'll see on the model. Is it femora or femoris? Sorry, hold on. Okay, femoral. This one is profunda femoral. Profunda. Profunda, like, you know, being profound. So, it used to be called, or it also is called deep femoral, I think. This vessel is the vessel that actually supplies the femur itself. Right, so bone has living portions in it, right? The bone marrow, and then all the cells that are part of the bone, right? And this blood vessel is what supplies the femur with blood. Okay. Profunda femoral. Now we've got this branch here. This is the greater saphenous artery. There's that one there too. And then, so somewhere along here, I can't really show it on the picture, but when we look at the cadaver, you'll actually see it. Femoral, so femoral continues all the way down, and it kind of ends up back behind the knee. And when it's behind the knee, that's when it's called the popliteal artery. So somewhere in here, it's popliteal. Popliteal artery. And then popliteal splits into our two tibial arteries. So we have an anterior tibial and a posterior tibial artery. So these guys down here. Any questions with this so far? Yeah.